Hello YouTube, Simmentars here. I'm back again. Yeah, I know I'm a couple of days late on getting this up, but I had an emergency that came up with. It's already almost midnight here, but I wanted to put at least a few minutes worth of video out. So this is going to be the pilot episode of my first impression series, which I'm titling 1, 2, 3, Go. It's basically an idea of I'm going to be looking at a movie, a series, a video game, anything that you could reasonably have a first impression of from the first couple of episodes, the first 20 minutes, etc. My plan had been to actually put out a new game, something I'd never played before, never even looked at, but due to aforementioned issues, my 3DS battery is dead and I don't have a charger for it where I am right now. So instead, what I'm going to go with is my thoughts on the Pokemon 7th generation Sun and Moon. Little bit, um, yeah, it's a cheat in the very first episode, and I know you're not supposed to do that, but I'm pressed for time, I'm pressed for material, and I want to put something out at least within the week I said I would have it out, if not on the day. And, well, two things. One, I remember my first impression of the game pretty well, and unfortunately it hasn't changed very much. Maybe time will tell, but we're going to see how this goes. So, my first impression for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Well, Nintendo, you lied to me. It's not a bad game from an objective standpoint. It's actually a pretty good game in technical terms. My issues with it are one, personal, and two, just kind of feeding back to the series as a whole, how I feel it stacks up against them. And yeah, someday I may go into the entire series in more detail, and definitely this game. But basically, I came into this game right off of 6th generation, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. And a lot of the Alolan Pokemon I find are disappointing, either in terms of gameplay or design. I mean, you're in Hawaii, and what's the most creative thing we come up with? Some tiki statues that come to life fighting Cthulhu monsters? I mean, yeah, it's a really cool concept. I just don't think they delivered on it as well as they could have. And then gameplay, Sun and Moon seems to have this really weird kind of difficulty pattern where it's really, really easy compared to the rest of the series until suddenly it's kicking your teeth down your throat and you need to go level grind. And then because you had to level grind so much to get past the difficulty spike, the next several areas become even easier. So it doesn't have a smooth difficulty curve at all. There are some Pokemon I like, but well, let me put it this way. I was using Kanto and Johto Pokemon for most of the game, allowing for Alolan variants, of course. Then, and this goes back to my issue with the design, I'm not happy with the starters. Now, Decidueye, I like. All three of the first stage starters, Litten, Poplio, and, Rowlet, I like. Primarina, I could take or leave, and I'm not a fan of Incineroar. We've already had wrestler Pokemon, we've got 3 wrestler Pokemon in this generation already. And we do not need a heel wrestler, or for those who are not familiar with the terminology, an asshole wrestler, especially as the starter. I don't think Incineroar was very well thought out. Fire and Dark is not even a new typing because we've had that since 2nd generation. What are my other things? Yeah, this is going a little bit in depth for first impression, but I am going to say a lot of this was stuff I had coming from the demo that just carried over to the main game. Ride Pokemon. That's a cool idea. We're getting rid of HM slaves, meaning that you've got basically you have a full team of Pokemon instead of a team of 5 or, God forbid, 4, and then 1 or 2 whose only purpose is to know HM moves. Because a lot of Pokemon that know HM moves either aren't very good or they know better moves that you want to use their slots for. So, I like the concept behind Ride Pokemon, but I don't like that they are literally handed to you. There's not a single Ride Pokemon you have to search out. And they took some moves that used to be HMs and therefore felt kind of special, even if they weren't. And they're mostly been taken out of the game completely. Cut no longer exists. I've only seen Surf on one Pokemon, in Alola anyway, and it was on an NPC, and unfortunately Pokemon has an issue of NPCs will once in a while get moves you can't use. So, to this point, I'm still not sure Surf even exists anymore. Fly's a TM, but you've got to look in and out of the way corner for it. Oh, and going back to the difficulty, and my comment about NPCs having moves you can't use. This is an endgame thing, but Pokemon has always been infamous for cheating. Either the game is actually cheating you, or enemy trainers are so bloody lucky that it really feels like you're being cheated. Not to mention the battle facilities, where the further in you go, the more likely you are to run into a team that is just a perfect counter for yours, no matter how off the wall your strategy is and how well balanced your team is. You'll find people who have the perfect solution to find that one tiny little chink in your team and wipe you out. And these are theoretically random people you're playing against who just happen to have well-built teams. Well, Sun and Moon doesn't do that. Mostly. Actually, all the way through the main storyline, if you were building your team expecting to run into those cheating jerks that you've expected from the last 6 generations, that's actually going to lead into the low difficulty, in that you will be bulldozing over people who are theoretically playing fair and not out for blood. And then you get to the Elite Four. So, there are 4 Kahuna battles, which are basically the gym leader battles, as opposed to 8. Part of the setup includes that rather than fighting gym leaders, sorry about that, leaned on a light switch, you have to go through trials, which end in boss fights, and then fight the Kahuna standing in as a gym leader. So, here's your 4 Kahunas. 1 specializing in fighting type Pokemon, 1 in rock types, 1 in ghost types, and, I'm blanking on the last one. Right, fire types. So, our Elite Four, oh yeah, and these Kahunas return as the Elite Four. So, fighting, rock, ghost, fire. Yes, we've had all of them in the Elite Four before, but never that specific makeup. And that's actually a pretty varied team, because with the exception of, unless you bring in Psychic and Water Pokemon pretty much exclusively, yeah, you're not going to have a very easy time just type sweeping everyone. Except, oh, the Fire Kahuna's not here. Who is? Oh, some woman you've never met before who's apparently a friend of one of the Kahunas and was called in specifically to beat you because you're doing too well. And not only are all of her Pokemon really overpowered for their level, I mean beyond super training. One of them specifically, her Toucannon, an Alolan Pokemon who most likely you will have caught and or evolved for your dex and then put away, outright cheats Its stats are way higher than they should be, even compared to the rest of her team. And it uses its signature move, which is supposed to be a charge-up move taking one turn in one move. So how does it do this? Does it have an ability that lets it charge up faster? Is there some interaction with the weather effects, such as solar beam going off faster in the sun? Does it have an energy seed that it can eat to fire off a shot instantly? No, 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 no. You see, all that would make sense. It skips your turn. And I'm not just talking, because in Sun and Moon, at least if you get the first release versions, there is a small lag between turns. The game actually does take a second to load, and it's literally a second, but you're going to notice it. So when I'm fighting her, and I have 4 separate people, and if anyone wants to call me out on this, I can ask them and have them, vouch for it, have seen this happen. Enemy to cannon, stored energy. Game pauses. Game pauses. Enemy to cannon used beak blast. It literally skips over your turn in order to fire faster. That, I think, is the most blatant cheat I have ever seen any Pokemon game do. And Game Freak, you need to fix that. I have not gone and rematched her since the last patch. Maybe they did. If they didn't, they need to. Final closing out thoughts. Oh, yeah, by the way, Red and Blue. The reason a lot of people bought this game is Red and Blue are back. You can bulldoze over Red with your Elite Four team without breaking a sweat. Blue is somewhat harder. But no. For the original 2 Pokemon Masters, the guys who started all of this, no, Nintendo. Don't do that to my childhood. In closing, I enjoy Sun and Moon enough to keep playing it, but I'm at the end of the main story. It has literally become a drag to even push myself to go further, and I'm just hoping that either the reboot that's been hinted at or Generation 8 makes a better showing out of doing something new for the franchise, because it feels like Nintendo dropped the ball on this one. Come back tomorrow. Actually, make that this weekend. And I'm going to have my next series called Second Opinions. I haven't decided on the topic, but I've got it narrowed down to 3. I just basically need to decide which movie I can get access to rewatch. Until then, this will be Simantari signing out, and you people have a great night. Oh, and it's midnight, so go to bed, please. You'll thank yourself in the morning.